So you're planning to visit Italy in 2024. It's a fantastic choice. But before you go ahead and book your tickets, there are 5 key things that I think you need to consider that could make the world of difference to the experience you end up having here. Before I share those with you though, if you enjoy learning about what everyday life is really like here in South Italy, the beauty and the reality, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the content that I share on this channel. I've also launched a new podcast, Lessons from the Boot, where I dive a bit deeper into the personal growth and development that living here in South Italy teaches me. So if you want to know more about that, I will put the link below in the show notes. And let's go ahead and share with you the 5 key things that you need to think about before you plan your trip to Italy. And they are what I have called the 5 W's. The first W is who. Who are you going to be traveling with? This is a really important consideration because it's going to impact considerations like accessibility. How are you going to move around your destination? Are you going to opt for guided experiences and an all-inclusive package at a hotel, for example? Or are you going to consider hiring a car or moped for your stay? And these factors depend really on whether you are traveling as a family, in which case are your children very little or are they teenagers, and what activities and aspects are they going to be interested in? It also applies whether you are traveling as a couple or even solo, because even within those categories of people, there are different considerations that you need to think about. Particularly if you are solo, you've got additional safety considerations to think about as well. How are you going to safely be able to move around from your hotel, from your accommodation around the centre and come back again, especially if you plan to go out late at night? Also, what are certain parts of Italy that perhaps should be avoided at certain times of the day, for example? Because although Italy is predominantly a safe country, it doesn't mean that crime doesn't exist here, because it does. And so you do have to pay attention to your personal safety as much as you would anywhere else. So the first W, who you are traveling with, is really where you should begin, which leads us nicely into the second W. The second W is what. What do you want to get from your holiday experience? Do you want to be a sightseer? Do you want to relax and not think about anything? Do you want to have a really authentic Italian experience, much like how a local would live, for example? Or do you want to have a base where you stay, but also have the ability to travel outside of your accommodation location? This is really important because this will also help you in just pinpointing exactly where might be best for you to visit. If, for example, traveling outside of your accommodation location is an important factor for you, then you definitely want to choose a part of Italy with good connections. And when I say good connections, I don't mean bus connections, because honestly, especially in the south of Italy, buses are notoriously unreliable and operate to a very elusive timetable. So I would say good connections would be better to be based on train services rather than bus services. Trains, although they come with their fair share of problems, generally do fare better in terms of connections. So you want to be near a train station, and you also want to be near a train station that either connects you to a bigger train station nearby, or if in the case of Salerno, for example, you can travel to the major train stations across Italy from that one place. So this is definitely something to consider. Also, if you want to relax, this is going to help you to decide whether you want to really be in a busy centre, or if you'd prefer to be in the countryside or on a beach, for example. So this is why that aspect is also really important to think about, as well as the fact that if you want to live like a local, this means you are going to have to do a bit of research before you come here, because the majority of the tourist guides available on the market take you where everybody else will go. Apart from a few exceptions like Lonely Planet, which will give you a few insider tips, generally speaking, the tourist guides available currently will focus on the main tourist destinations for you to go to. But if you want to live like a local, yes, you want to experience that to some degree, but you also want to explore off the beaten track a little bit and discover hidden gems that you might otherwise have not known about. So this is going to require you to do a bit of research on YouTube, on the internet, to discover those places for yourself, which is why it's going to be important to learn this before you even book your tickets to come to Italy. If your plan from your holiday is to go sightseeing, then this is going to help you to decide your location for one, but also it's going to get you thinking about how you're going to see all of the sites. Kind of devise a bit of a plan as to how you're going to get from A to B to see all of the different places you want to see. Are you going to participate in a guided excursion, for example? Or are you going to see if there's like a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing bus that you can benefit from? Or are you going to see if it is feasible for you to see all of the sites that you want to see on foot? This will be things that you can start to think about, which is essentially going to help you with the third W. The third W is where. The big elusive where. Where in Italy do you want to go? This is going to very much depend on whether you want to have a city break, a beach holiday, or just to experience the tranquility of a countryside location. So for example, if city breaks are more your thing, you might consider Milan or Rome, for example. If a beach holiday is what you'd really enjoy, then the south of Italy is going to be somewhere you want to explore, because the sea in the south of Italy is generally considered to be the best in all of Italy. So you're going to maybe consider Amalfi. Salerno, great location. If you haven't seen my videos already about this incredible city, here's a link to a playlist up here. Also, you might consider Puglia, which is further south and is a very popular holiday destination, or even Sicily. The sea in Sicily is magnificent, and dare I say it, some of the best water that I've ever seen in my life. So definitely a great option for you if you really love a beach holiday. If you want to have the tranquility of a countryside break, then you might consider Tuscany or the Umbria region. Both places are renowned for their rolling hills and beautiful vineyards, and so they could be perfect locations for you. So knowing what you want to do, knowing who you are going to be traveling with, can really help lead you to this point as to where to go. Now, it's not just the part of Italy that you need to think about under this W, but also accommodation. Where are you going to sleep? In Italy, you can benefit from lots of different types of accommodation. We have glamping here, we have even hostels if you're on a budget, Airbnbs, hotels, bed and breakfasts. There is a wide array of accommodation choices that you can choose from. But again, it all depends on your own personal circumstances and your budget, of course, as to which one you might choose to go for. But knowing where in Italy you're going to be leads you very nicely into deciding what might be the best type of accommodation in that particular area. So you know who you're traveling with, you know what you want to get from your holiday experience, and you know where in Italy you want to go. So this leads us very nicely onto our fourth W. The fourth W is when. When do you want to come to Italy? I almost want to say that out of all of the W's that I've spoken about today, this is probably the most important for lots of different reasons. Firstly, it's going to very much impact the amount of money that you spend on your holiday. If you choose to come in the peak summer months, for example, you will pay so much more than if you were to come in September, October, or in the spring. But also it can impact availability. So in the busier months, availability is limited. A lot of Italians will book holiday accommodation, particularly in the south of Italy, to go and spend a holiday period or even a couple of months in that second home. So that can limit availability when it comes to accommodation, but also availability of activities. In the busier months, when there are a lot more tourists here in Italy, activities get booked up very quickly. Restaurants get booked up very quickly. Everywhere just feels so much busier. Lidos, if you plan to have a beach break, for example, get booked up very quickly. Beaches get packed very quickly. So this can impact all the different aspects of your holiday experience, whether you are sightseeing or planning to relax on the beach. So it's really important to think about that when you're considering when to visit. But tied into that is also if there are any public holidays that fall during your holiday time. Now, depending on what the public holiday is, depends on whether or not you should really reconsider your choice of visiting Italy in that moment. If you're going to think about August as a perfect holiday month, I'm going to stop you right there and be like, don't do it. August is the absolute worst month to visit Italy. I've spoken about it in this video up here, but essentially it is the period of Ferragosto, which is the Italian holiday season, and it is an absolute nightmare to go to the beach, to experience any kind of relaxing time, because everywhere is just absolutely crowded, not even just with Italian tourists, but with tourists from other countries as well. So it just doesn't make for a very relaxing experience. But then taking that aside, you also want to think about whether or not the public holidays are going to impact your ability to do certain things. For example, during Ferragosto, you will find that some businesses close for a part of August, even into early September. So if your plan is to come here and have a really authentic Italian experience, you may be limited in what you can do because a lot of places will close, if not for the whole month, for certain parts during that month. And that can limit your ability to really experience life here in Italy. So that's a really important consideration. But there are other holidays where it's quite nice to be here in Italy to experience them. And they tend to be patron saint days. So if you look on the internet, in fact, I will put a link below into the video notes for you to have a look at a website which can give you some idea of when these patron saint days are, depending on the region of Italy you're going to. But if you happen to be in a city or town on its patron saint day, it's usually a really big celebration. Yes, some places will close. It tends to be a public holiday for that particular part of Italy, but there's usually a procession, there's usually some kind of festival or festivities that take place over the course of that period, and it's a really, really special thing to be a part of. So those types of holidays can be really nice, but when it comes to the big summer break, the Ferragosto, I don't think it's a great time to be here. Christmas isn't so bad. Of course, we still have tourists here, and it depends on what part of Italy you're talking about. But essentially, there are more places open over the festive period, and lots of activities as well, like to do with the nativities, to do with local traditions and processions. So Christmas can also be quite a nice time to be here. But you need to do your research, because it's not always fun to be in Italy during a peak holiday period. Another thing to consider when it comes to exactly when you come here relates to the weather. Now, this very much depends on what you want from your experience. If you want the high temperatures, the summer months are yours for the taking. You can expect temperatures, especially here in Sicily, to reach 40 degrees in the hot summer months of July and August. However, if those kinds of temperatures leave you breaking out in an anxious sweat, then you're not going to want to come to Italy during that time. You are going to want to come in the spring when temperatures are beautifully mild, in the 20s normally, or even in the autumn, depending on what part of Italy you go to. The north of Italy tends to be more like a traditional English autumn, a little bit cooler, the changing of the leaves, the fog, you can kind of see the difference. But here in Sicily, for example, in the south of Italy, autumn can be beautifully mild. In fact, people still swim at Mondello Beach in October. So it really depends again on where you go, but generally in the south the climate is a lot milder for longer periods of the year, and even now, like in January, a week ago we had temperatures of 19 degrees. Now we're at around 12 degrees, which is considered chilly for us here. So you can see it very much depends on where you are. But weather is a very important consideration, particularly if you enjoy a city break. take it from me, it is absolutely no fun to go exploring and sightseeing with the sun beating down on you. You will find in the summer months especially, cities empty out. All the locals leave the cities to try and escape the intense humidity and heat and go to the beach. So I promise you, it is not the time to have a city break in 40-degree temperatures, especially, and this is a really, really common mistake that I know a lot of tourists make. If you want to go and visit like ruins, for example, Pompeii, if you go to Pompeii, there is absolutely zero shade. So it is not the place to go with the beating sun on top of you. So this can impact your ability to do certain activities. So it's so important to consider when you want to come here. Which leads us very nicely into our fifth and final W. Our fifth and final W relates to why. Why do you want to visit Italy? It's a really curious question because, of course, maybe you just want to. It's a bucket list destination. It's something you've always wanted to do. But I think if you really sit with this for a little while, it opens you up to the possibilities of having a more enriched experience during your holiday time here in Italy. In life, generally, I don't think we consider our whys often enough. When we have to make a decision, we tend to just go for it without really thinking why we want to do something. But the why is the magic. In the why contains all the information you need as to the kind of experience you want to have and what you will end up having as a result. And so I think if you can just spend some time just sitting with yourself and asking yourself why you want to come to Italy, I think it's going to open you up to ideas, inspiration, and more opportunities so that you can really get the most out of your time here in Italy. I hope these tips have helped. There is another video that I recommend you watch next, which is going to give you even more tips if you plan to visit South Italy especially. And I will see you in the next video.